Good morning, true gardeners. So today's video, I want to share with you guys how we set boulders in a landscape. It's funny enough, I get this comment all the time. People say it's like you're planting the boulders, and that's exactly what you do to kind of make them look more naturalistic, make them look a little bit more interesting and part of the landscape. There's just kind of a couple little methods that landscapers and landscape designers really like to work with, kind of make it, you know, just a little bit more part of the garden. So I'm going to share with you some that we've already set, and then you guys are going to see kind of how my guys back here are going to set the next grouping of boulders. First off, in this little grouping right here, you're going to see that we're using coquina boulders. I absolutely love using them. I mean, obviously they're Florida boulders, so they have kind of a nice fit to a Florida landscape. If you can at all find some with some holes in them, that way you can decorate the inside, maybe have a bromeliad popping out of the edges or out of the holes. I think that is so fascinating with these boulders because it really does give you that wow, tropical kind of vibe. The other type of boulders that I use are Tennessee boulders, and I like them kind of more for an edging style. So I like them to put them in, dig them in, and kind of create a natural edge border with the Tennessee boulders. So you're going to see here that this collection, I love the idea of using boulders to represent an elevation. Now you can put them into a neutral landscape, like a level landscape if you like, and just pop it in there and it's got a little bit of a mound and a little bit of interest. If at all possible and you're using like a grouping of 3 boulders, that allows you to bring in some soil to kind of mound up around it and make it look like the boulders are holding in that grade. And that's exactly what's happening here. This is about a ½ yard of soil to the back, raising these trees up. Now I'm doing this for 2 reasons. A lot of times you're going to notice a lot of tropicals really love to be in well-draining soil, and this is a low spot in my garden. We're able to kind of manipulate the ground by raising them up, putting them in their perfect habitat of a well-drained area, allowing any kind of rainwater, everything to kind of flow this way. But I definitely needed to hold in the soil because this edging is not quite tall enough to do the trick. So you get the benefit of the beauty of the boulders, and they're all obviously a useful plus in the garden. So what you do is you take and you just dig out a little bit of this center of the boulder, not much, just a couple inches, just so it sits right, and then backfill the rear side of it with soil, and then push the boulder just at an angle to kind of sit into that spot, kind of like you see here. What it offers is it makes the boulder look a lot larger than what it is in reality. If I were to take this boulder and flatten it out here, this is a pretty good sized boulder, but you just don't see the benefit of it. If you can take a boulder and instead of laying it flat, flip it up on its side, pack that dirt in, give it kind of at an angle, it's going to make it feel so much larger than it is in reality. All right, so you guys see that Bernabe is digging, he's edging the edge of the boulder in. So this is where the boulder is going to actually sit. And you can see that we have some raise to the backside. So we've already done this one right here. And you can see that this has got a nice bit of backfill to it. The front has been edged in. This is a nice secure boulder. This guy is not going anywhere. Now, oftentimes I see boulders where one will start here at the edge, and then you can see that crack. If that's what you're working with, that's no problem. Put a foxtail fern or something interesting to kind of camouflage the joint. That's normally what I do. But if at all possible, and you can take the boulders and overlap them. So you see how this one's protruding out and this one's coming from the back. I needed to make a curve, or else I would have done that even more and brought this boulder to the back side here. So imagine instead of taking your boulders and joining them just like this, you kind of want to do this with the boulder. So it naturally looks like one feeds into the other. You guys notice I do that with my plants all the time, but boulders are no different. So overlap them a little bit so the 2 corners are kind of, you're not seeing this individual joint, just as much as you possibly can.
Hey you guys, Bryce here. I just wanted to pop this in real quick and ask if you could like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps show your support and keep these videos going. Also, if you're enjoying the video, please drop a true gardener in the comments. And if you're looking for any help with designing your space, or you have some questions, or you want a master plan created, or you even want a design and installation done, head over to our website. We have 3 short videos that break down our 3 services so you can see which option works best for you. In those videos, we'll go over pricing and locations for the state of Florida. And if you're looking for any products mentioned in this video, we have a link that takes you directly to our Amazon storefront where you should be able to find everything. And also, if you're looking to build your own plant palettes, we also have a link that takes you to our book that helps walk you through designing your own space. Thanks so much for your support, and let's get back to the video.
All right, so now we're gonna get ready to set this boulder. And a lot of this is eyeing this up. There's a pretty side to every boulder. You want to kind of work on the prettiest side. So we usually determine that before we haul them all back here. We'll take a look at it and see kind of which way we want to twist it. And then that way you're putting the least amount of hands on the boulder that you have to. So I know that these boulders are substantial sizes, and Bernabe and Simon are very strong guys, and I'm not nearly that strong. So you're going to do the same thing, the same kind of method with smaller boulders. That's perfectly fine. You kind of see how he's forcing it into this corner. He's trying to get it to where you don't see this joint, so that way that there's one overlapping the other one. When you're setting up your boulders, the level is a big thing. I know that these are unusual shapes. You might have one end bigger than the other. You can manipulate the ground to make that level. You don't have to kind of work with the boulder. If you've got one end that sticks up way high and you want it to be more flat, dig out that corner, drop it in, so that way everything is nice and level either way when you're working with these. Because when you like boulders in a landscape and you're like, man, sometimes I like them and sometimes they just look like, you know, inconsequential. They don't really have a real purpose in the garden. So if you can make it look purposeful, like you created this kind of little accent feature here and there to incorporate with your plants and trees, or used it to raise up a little island to kind of give yourself a multi-level garden, to me, that's what boulders are for in a garden. That's what makes them really pop, really stand out.
I've heard people say like sometimes you use sand, sod, or is mulch just okay, or dirt just okay, or do you want any compact sand to make it so it doesn't move?
Naturally put in any sand or any kind of anything to build or settle to put on the boulders. I don't. We use soil pretty often. It really holds it nice and still, as long as you're maybe backfilling and packing it in really nice and tight. So when you put and backfill your soil from your garden, just take the edge of your shovel and kind of do this with it. That'll loosen up and make sure that everything packs really, really well, and then go back and pack it in. You can stomp it in, making sure at the end of the day your boulders don't move, because the last thing you want is, you know, somebody to get hurt, or you just step a little weird and the boulder moves and then you don't expect that. So you want to make sure that you secure it that way, but we don't use any kind of setting sand for anything like that. I imagine if you're stacking them, that's a different thing. Or if you're using flagstone, setting sand is important. But for boulders in a garden and a landscape, you can use your soil. And you may ask yourself, do you need to use weed fabric to kind of hold that grade in? Now, if you have a big mound and it looks like you don't have enough boulder action to make that happen, you can absolutely use weed fabric, pin it in at the edges, and that'll hold your soil in. In this particular situation, I'm going to use plant material in this whole area. I'm going to have it flooded and kind of overflowing around the boulders. So I know that those roots are going to hold any soil that I need. So what I really needed to do was support it for the immediate time frame, knowing that plants are coming very, very soon to do the job for me. However, if this was going to be more of a rock garden, if this was going to be different types of stones, which I love doing when you're mixing boulders, if this was going to be like, you know, a big grouping of gray Mexican beach pebble to the back and maybe some black to the front, and you're kind of really playing with that, that's a gorgeous look with boulders. That's where I would do weed fabric, because you guys know I always love a tight base of weed fabric to make sure that rock doesn't disappear, especially if you're using Mexican beach pebbles, because it's crazy expensive. So you don't want anything to disappear. All right, you guys, so I hope that little bit of tidbit information helps you guys, from a landscape designer to your home as you DIYers kind of play with these rocks, and it kind of gives you a little bit of love for rocks in the garden, because I absolutely love the way it looks where I brought them into my very own garden. If you guys enjoyed today's video, then you may enjoy the rock versus mulch video we did just a little while ago. I think it really gave some good insights on kind of, you know, which direction to go, which style might fit you best. Check that one out before you start sticking some boulders in your garden. All right, y'all, see you next week in next week's video.